Good evening. It is 7 p.m. on September 17th, 2024. I'm convening this meeting of the Hingham Select Board. Present with me this evening are Bill Ramsey, Liz Klein, and myself, Joe Fisher. This meeting is being held in person and/or remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 and all other applicable laws temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Hingham in accordance with the open meeting law. If any participant wishes to record the meeting, please notify the chair at the start of the meeting in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 20F, so that the chair may inform all other participants of said recording. Is there anyone else recording? Seeing none, we begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're willing and able, please stand. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes dated August 27, 2024. I am not prepared to move forward on that. So I don't think there's an urgency. I prefer to defer that to our next meeting. Next item is to consider approval of the issuance of a special one-day wine and malt beverages license to Galley Kitchen and Bar for the Mad Love Music Festival to be held at the South Shore Conservatory on October 13th, 2024, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. So who do we have to, is Brian here?
Does not look like.
I don't see. Tom, is there anyone?
It would have been Brian Donovan from the Galley. I can walk you through the application pretty briefly.
Was he in touch with the office? Are we expecting him to attend?
Yes.
Yes.
So I am going to defer this,
Okay.
and if someone has his email or text, that we can just let him know.
Good idea.
I mean, we'll plan another meeting before the 13th, so if it doesn't happen tonight, we can prove it later meeting, so.
Yeah, this isn't for a while.
Okay.
Excuse me, Joe, if you don't mind. Sebastian, we're getting a message that the online person can't hear anything from the room. They heard the recording in progress from Zoom, but that was it. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Great. Next item on the agenda is to review various early voting options for the November 5th, 2024 state election and to consider modifying the hours for the first week of early in-person voting under Mass General Laws, Chapter 54, Section 25B, B3. We are honored to have Carol Falvey here, our town clerk. So please walk us through what is currently in place and what modification you are proposing.
Sure. So we're talking about the November 5th, we call it the state election, although the rest of the world refers to it as the presidential election. We have voting, obviously, on Election Day, which is from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Vote by mail is, of course, a very popular option. I think I've spoken about this in town. Approximately 50% of our voters, regardless of what the turnout is, shows up, they vote by mail rather than in person on the day of or in person early. So that, we expect the ballots are coming from the state. We expect those October 4th to the 7th. We currently have 5,600 applications that are in and expect, we probably are getting 50 to 100 a day, so we'll probably be over 8,000, 9,000. So a lot of our time from now, or from the time we receive the ballots, will be spent on getting those out and receiving those back. Our in-person early voting starts on Saturday, October 19th, which we will be holding hours from 10 to 4, and as well on the following Saturday, October 26th. Then there are 2 weeks of in-person voting during our regular business hours. And we do have the option of asking the select board to modify the first of the 2 weeks by 50%. And my reason for doing that is I feel that we have so many people that choose to vote by mail in Hingham, and also trying to balance the other services that we offer to the community. You know, things like, you know, people, the notary thing is such a huge component of what we do. And if we're going to be open every day for voting early, we just would have to say to people, we can't offer that for this period of time. So I'm trying to get through another week where we're able to issue birth and death and marriage certificates and notarize documents for people while also offering the early in-person voting. So that's my request. The following week, we would be open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we will be open on Friday, November 1st, because that would be the actual last day. And I think people should have the opportunity to come in that day, regardless of the fact that we are closed on Fridays. So that's where we're at.
So what's being proposed is for that first
First
of the 2
week.
weeks, cutting it down from 50%. So
Right,
what would
so
the
we would be
hours-
open all day on Tuesday. We would be open from 8 AM to 7 PM.
Yep.
And on Thursday, we would be open from 8 AM to 5 PM.
So I'm sorry, so what is the cut? Are you eliminating days or?
Yeah, so we would eliminate Monday and Wednesday,
And obviously, nothing on Friday.
and nothing on that Friday. But the following Friday,
Right.
which is the last day, we will be open 8 to 5.
Do we know what the experience was at the last presidential election?
Well, the last presidential, I do have some information, of course, was COVID, so that's, you know, that adds another element, as well as the fact that the early vote by mail had really not established as it has in the past 4 years. So, but I do have statistics for Hingham. So the percentage of mail was 46.8%. The early in-person was 26.8%, and the actual election day was 26.4%. But again, I really think that is impacted by COVID. I know myself, I was actually an early in-person voter as opposed to election day, because I didn't know what to expect on election day. I didn't know if I would have COVID on election day, so I took that opportunity to vote early. I feel like we're in a different environment now, and at least the brief history that I have doing this job in the past 3+ years is that we had very low in-person turnout.
So the concerns with mail-in ballots that are at least, they're not Hingham concerns, but I think they're carried in the national press. Well, one is that you don't get a mail-in ballot unless you actually request it.
That is correct.
So that
In Massachusetts.
if you haven't taken the time, or if it slipped through the cracks,
Right.
you won't have that mail-in option unless you actually affirmatively request it. Whereas
That is
with
correct.
going for in-person, you don't have to do it ahead of time, you can just
Correct.
show up.
Yep.
And the second concern is people are saying, well, it's dropped in the mail, but is it actually delivered? Is it actually delivered on time? And so
Delivered back to us, or?
no, look, when you're putting it in the mailbox, are there going to be delays in the delivery? I'm not saying this is a Hingham issue,
Right.
but what's gotten national press is people drop their mail in, their ballot in the mail, and they're just not sure if it's going to be delivered. And so there's an element of security knowing you go in and you vote, it's recorded.
Right. So people do have options, once
Right.
they've mailed their ballot, to see if their ballot has arrived. You can check your ballot online, and it tells you whether the ballot has been received by Hingham. Just to let people know
Yeah,
that that's an
that's-
option.
Great.
Yep.
But, certainly, once it leaves our hands and leaves the voters' hands to come back to us, unless they place it in the ballot box, the US mail is involved, and
Right.
we have no control over them.
And when your office is open for in-person mailing, does that mean that all other functions have to cease?
No, but it does, it does distract from what we do, because, we can sometimes, we like to do it in the office if we can, and it will really depend on how many people that we have coming in. We did it for the presidential primary, it worked out, beautifully. But we can set up a satellite upstairs with some people there. But it does definitely takes over most of our attention, for sure.
Right. I mean, it just seems that if you're set up for in-person and basically no one shows up, then your office is really free to do other work.
Correct.
And if people do show up, then it's really a good thing that you were open.
Right.
So I guess I'm missing the compelling argument for why we should not have in-person voting continuing that entire first week.
So in my estimation, I just don't think we will have the people and that would free us up to do other things. But if we do have the people
Yeah.
that come in, then at least on the 2 days, we can offer services to other voters that care about
Yeah.
getting things notarized, or picking up death certificates, or filing their public record requests, or the myriad of other things,
Sure.
getting their dog licensed. And at some point, you just have to start prioritizing what you'll be doing.
So there's a chart, if we can get it up on the screen. I don't know, Michelle, if you have it or Art has it. So I tried to get data on what happens during presidential elections versus off elections. And what I'm seeing is a consistent uptick in-person while there is mail-in, but also an uptick in in-person when you've got the presidential elections. And if you can see in the last presidential election in 2020, you had, and I think it's consistent with the data you were showing for Hingham, this is national, that you had about almost the same number of people doing in-person early voting as who did in-person
Right.
on the day of the
And I
election.
think that's because of COVID. I don't think we're gonna see that in this election.
But, so you actually saw this, so in 2016, you had the same number of people voting in person as who did mail. So that was pre-COVID. So I mean, I'm seeing data that suggests in-person is still important. And I know it's a distraction for your office, but I think during 1 week for an incredibly important event, we should consider whether or not we want to continue that. I respect the concern you've got for all the other functions and also making sure that your office is functioning properly. But I think we need to weigh what should take, what we should prioritize in this election time. So I will now turn this over to Liz and then to Bill for your thoughts. Sure. So I'll start with Liz.
Thank you. Carol, I think you said how many mail-in ballots have already been requested?
Right.
Because you request that for all elections, right, at the beginning of the year typically?
Well, so the state sent out, they've sent out 3 mailings for early. So, I mean, when people say they don't have the opportunity, or they forgot about it, it's like you've had 3 opportunities. The state has spent a lot of postage and money letting people know that this is here. So, in any event, we've gotten, we got the first slew for the presidential primary. Then in July, they sent it out for the primary in September.
Right.
And so we got additional cards, and now the last set of cards have gone out. I mean, I think the voters in Hingham have had ample opportunity to know and to submit an application if they're interested in voting by mail.
Okay. And did you say that was 8,000?
So we're currently we have 5,500 on already that we have received. I
Those
do
are requests for ballots?
Already.
Right, okay.
Yep, okay.
People that have requested for the entire year, or for the September primary and the November. And every day we get additional ones.
Okay.
So I think we will approach, because I think based on our statistics, about half of our voting population will probably approach 8,000 in the next month.
Okay.
We
Okay.
currently have 19,862 voters.
Yes, okay. I mean, I agree with Joe. Obviously, this is a priority for the country, and we want to make it as accessible as possible for people. But I also absolutely get your point, and you know how that office runs. So I am comfortable with the reduced hours. I think it's really important to have the Saturdays, as you mentioned. and the full week.
The last Friday.
Yes.
Absolutely,
The full week
because-
before the election day, Monday through Friday, all day, all 5 days. For me, that's the priority, because I might not remember if it's a Tuesday or a Thursday or a Wednesday or a half day. I think the easier we can make this, the better. So the messaging is important, and I think have people knowing that it's available every day, that full week before is the priority. I don't know how many people would come the week before.
Right. My experience is people always come at the end, regardless of how many warnings you say, hey, like, don't forget, we have these hours. It'll be that Friday. There'll be people at 5:05 coming because they know that they absolutely have to do it because this is their last day or their last option, other than coming on election day, which I think, there is a segment of people that really want to show up on
Yes.
election day as
Yes,
well.
I agree. And I think that will be different. People won't be afraid to come because of COVID.
Right.
So they will come on November 5th. But if you're out of town or you don't know if you're going to be out of town and you want to make sure your vote is counted, absolutely vote early or by mail. That's the best way to go. So I'm open to the reduced schedule as long as that week before, the week of the 28th is full-time. That's the priority for me.
Bill?
Great. Yes, I'm also comfortable with the reduced schedule. Anecdotally, I'm somebody who voted in the 2020 election to 2 weeks out, near the end of that week. And I remember asking the poll workers about voter traffic, and they said it was unbelievably slow. They said this has been very quiet, no one's been here. And then the second week, I saw Eileen, and she said the week leading up to it, as you pointed out, Kara, was extremely busy. So I'm comfortable with the reduced hours. In my 5 years on the board on matters of elections, I've always deferred to the expertise of the town clerk, and, I trust.
Any members of the public, comments or questions? I am seeing and hearing none. I really think that it's important to prioritize accessibility at the ballot box. And particularly for a presidential election, I think that should be our priority. So while I respect your management of the office, I think I'm still inclined to say we should have as many days available as the law permits for early voting. But I recognize I may be outvoted. So with that, I am prepared
Well, I'll just make the
to
motion.
accept the motion.
I'll make this motion sua sponte. All right, so I would make a motion that pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 54, Section 25B, B3, and all other applicable laws, the town of Hingham hereby establishes the following schedule for in-person early voting for the November 5th, 2024 election. Saturday, October 19, 2024, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024, during the usual business hours of the town clerk. Thursday, October 24th, 2024, during the usual business hours of the town clerk. Saturday, October 26th, 2024, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday, October 28th, 2024, during the usual business hours of the town clerk. Tuesday, October 29th, 2024, during the usual business hours of the town clerk. Wednesday, October 30th, 2024, during the usual business hours of the town clerk. Thursday, October 31st, 2024, during the usual business hours of the town clerk, with additional hours to be held on Friday, November 1st, 2024, from 8 Town Hall, 210 Central Street, Hingham, Mass. 02043, as the early voting site for the November 5th, 2024 election.
Second.
Roll call vote. Liz?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
and I am a nay. Motion is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. Everybody get out and vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Go vote.
So how will this schedule be publicized so that,
So I will update the schedule that we currently have on the website tomorrow, and then Michelle and I are working on a little marketing campaign. I'll be sending out town clerk updates as well, pushing it out to people that have signed up, but everybody sign up for your updates so you know what's happening. And we'll be, the Facebook and other methods.
great, okay, thank you.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Have a
Thanks,
good
Carol.
evening.
Next item on the agenda. Oh, by the way, have we heard from Brian Donovan?
We have, he'll be joining us, but he's just not here yet.
Okay, so we'll keep going. The next item is to consider approval of the agreement with Diggett Construction LLC for the Route 3A Broad Cove Pump Station Force Main Improvements Sewer Project. I believe we have Russ Tierney, our superintendent here. So please.
Thank you, everybody. I'm glad I could be here. Kind of sitting in for Randy because he's out for a little while. So, this contract was put out to bid. 9 companies bid the project under Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Chapter 149, Labor and Industries Horizontal Construction Rules. We take the lowest bidder, and then we check all their credentials, and if they all work out, then they are awarded the contract if it's approved tonight. The 3 lowest bidders were Diggett Construction. Base bid was $3,686,788.74. C. Norton Corp. was the second bidder at $4,295,347, and RFV Construction had a base bid of $4,376,940. The town's procurement manager has been overseeing the process. Weston and Sampson Engineers, who designed it and procured it, checked all references and submittals for Diggett Construction and recommended awarding the contract. They're in good standing with the Secretary of State since 2011. They are on the Mass DOT pre-qualified contractors bid list, and they are not debarred from the bidding on public works projects. We checked all that through, Kathy checked it, we checked it, and our town council checked this. All 3 of us actually checked it, and it all worked out fine.
Thank you.
No problem at all. The base bid was $3,686,788.74. They did have a bid alternate, which I'll explain right after this, which reduced their price by $159,600. The contract award would be for $3,527,188.74. The project is to be funded by a few things. One is Article 18 in town meeting, which passed, was authorization to borrow for the Route 3A construction project. It was requested and passed to borrow $13 million. We also requested American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funding of $2.5 million. We're still waiting on that to see if it is awarded. If it is, any ARPA funding and/or grants will be used to reduce the cost of the project. Hingham Sewer Commission voted unanimously on September 10th, 2024, after we proposed this to them. They approved the recommendation of the Weston and Sampson Engineers and Review Team and submit the contract to the Select Board for review, approval, and execution, awarding the Force Main project to Diggett Construction, South Dennis, Mass. That was voted unanimously. A letter of award has been drafted and sent to Diggett. They're waiting for them to sign it back. I don't know if Kathy received it or not. I did not talk to her today. I apologize. Weston and Sampson also recommended using polyvinyl chloride pipe, PVC, instead of high-density polyethylene pipe. So that is the reduction. We're going to go to PVC instead of HDPE pipe. Both are excellent choices for a project of this type. However, they both have advantages and disadvantages. The HDPE pipe is typically used for trenchless construction, where you drill and force it through and bring it up. It's not really good for this location because there's a lot of things that are unknown in Route 3A. So we switched over to the PVC pipe, because also the HDPE pipe, if it needs to be repaired, you have to bring in a special contractor. Not a lot of contractors have the fusing equipment to put this stuff together. So in the interest of the town, it was actually better to go with PVC pipe, because that can be repaired by any qualified contractor. The contractor will start once agreements are in place and work is solely based on the discretion of Mass DOT because it's a state roadway. The contractor has 1 year from the date of execution to complete the project. The project isn't going to take a whole year, but because of the winter shutdowns, if the state doesn't allow us to work on the roads in the winter, we'll have to push it off, so they've been given 1 calendar year to finish the project. Weston and Sampson will be providing on-site inspectional services for the project. The resident representatives and engineering proposal being reviewed by the Hingham Soil Commission. We got it the other day, and that's going to be in their next meeting. The engineering services during construction include as-built drawings and things like that. They have 1,700 hours estimated for construction representative and residential project representative. They have construction representation reports directly to the resident project representative. So they have two people, one is on site every day, the other one is in the office, is there for them to discuss. But if they decide to bring on more crews, that person will come out of their office and come and stand in Hingham. So the hours are for the full year, but it is a budget, so hopefully we get this done a little faster and that will come down. But we wanted to make sure that they budgeted for the entire year of the project to make sure we had coverage for this project. It's a really important project, and we really feel that having Weston and Sampson on site is really going to be good for the town and the Hingham Soil Commission. There are 1,670 hours estimated for construction engineering office services. That's everything they do between the payment recs, as-built drawings, when it's done, provide us with a full set of as-built and other things like that. Town of Hingham Engineering Department will act as the town's representative on this job. JR and I talked about it last week, and he thought they could definitely handle it between him and Matt, so they are going to definitely oversee Weston and Sampson. I think all of us have already decided that we're all going to be somewhat involved in this, because we want to make sure this project goes off without a hitch. And the agreement in front of you is for review and consideration.
Could you walk through how the disbursements go? In other words, the entire sum is not paid at the beginning,
No,
it's not paid at the
they're
end,
paid-
so how does it?
Yep, so every day, the contract representative or the representative on site for Weston Sampson will go through the quantifiables for the day, so how many linear feet they put in, what type of pipe and things like that. At the end of each month, everybody gets together and makes sure that all the notes between all three parties match. Then they submit a request in for payment to the engineering company. That is then reviewed again to make sure that all the numbers match one more time. Then they are put in a pay requisition for the month. So they're paid by month.
So whose signature will appear saying the work was done?
Okay, so Weston and Sampson will approve it first, because they're gonna check to make sure the quantifiables match. Then they will sign it as our representative. Then someone from our side will sign it. We have not nailed that down yet, but we will
Okay.
make sure. It's either gonna be Randy, myself, or JR. We'll just decide that, it's pretty soon, just to make sure.
Okay.
It's always signed by a representative of the town. So when we do it on the water side, I sign them, so we'll make sure that someone signs them on the town side.
So it sounds like the payments will be issued based upon a confirmation that the work was done.
Correct.
What is the process for tracking so that we make sure that it's not only the work that was done, but the percentage of the project, so that at the end of 6 months, I don't want to be in a position where we spent 80%, because that's the work, but we're only 50% done on the project.
That does not happen.
Okay,
So any amount that we pay out to them is basically on, they have a whole sheet of different contractual items that they have to do. Those are itemized in lines, and then they have to put a requisition for the number of linear feet or one manhole, and so that's how it works. So it does not ever happen that way.
perfect.
Usually by the end of a contract, we've only paid them 75 or 80%. We still owe them 20% at the very end.
So is there a holdback in this case?
There is, but I don't have that in front of me, and I apologize.
Okay.
But there is a holdback.
Typically, that is 5%.
It's a 5% bid bond, so they
Right.
make sure that they
Right.
do their job.
And JR, did you want to add anything before I open up to questions?
No, other than what I said, it's a 5% of each requisition is held back from payment, and then as their final invoice, they will, at that point, request all of that 5% holdback. And so, in addition to that, there are also bonds that they have to put forward guaranteeing the work. But on every single invoice, we hold back 5%. And then at the end of the job, when everything is complete, then they will invoice for that holdback.
Sure. Just one more question before I open it up. You talked about the change in pipe.
Yep.
Is there a difference in the useful life of the two types of pipes that we
No.
discussed?
No, that's why Weston and Sampson went with, again, it's because the PVC pipe is less expensive, it's easier to install, and it's easier to repair when there is some type of repair. The HDPE pipe is very expensive to repair. The only time we ever really use that is like if we're going under a culvert or something like that where you gotta directionally drill the pipe, we will use HDPE pipe.
Got it. Liz?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Russ. So it sounds like you're comfortable with this company,
Yes.
and I know you did your due diligence on that, so thank you. And it sounds like we're comfortable with the approach. I guess I just want to ask, just to have it out there. You know, are there any concerns with the difference in price? Was the method, obviously, the pipe is different, but in terms of the difference in price, is there something else kind of a substantial difference that we should be concerned about, the
No.
approach or the?
No, not at all. I mean,
method?
we reviewed the top three, and all three had the same pretty much approach to the project. It's just more of, you know, how much each person bid each item, so it came out, I mean, they were pretty close for what we've seen before. We think they're a little lower than we probably would have expected from the next one up, but we've had conversations with them, and to be honest with you, I think they did a good job last time they were in town, so we'll see
Okay.
how they do.
Okay, great. And does this amount, the 3.5 million, does that cover the Weston and Sampson engineers? Or is that a?
Jack, can you answer that? Because
Is that a
I asked them
different
today and I didn't get an answer, so.
That does not cover the Weston and Sampson engineering
Okay.
contract.
So that'll be a separate contract, okay.
That will be separate, yes.
Okay, and Article 18, just to confirm, that was 13 million, correct? Okay. This looks, I don't know, maybe my eyes are failing me, but this looks like 13,000.
Yeah,
So
it
just want to
is.
make sure
It
that's,
says 13,000.
okay. So just make sure that's in the minutes as 13 million. And, okay,
7 people reviewed this and none of us caught it. It's all good.
zeros
These are
matter,
the
it
same
turns
people who are
out.
going to be signing off on the.
Yeah, zeros matter. Okay, and then obviously the ARPA funding. Michelle, do you want to talk a little bit about the funding sources or what else the 13 million is proposed to cover?
Sure, so that was for the whole project. This is the first part of it, the force main piece of it. I think Russell and his team can speak a little bit better to the other construction pieces, but we have just over 2.5 million-ish left from our Plymouth County allocation. All of that is going to be put towards this project, and we just need the signed contract to be able to formally submit for it, so they know that it's coming. We've put it in all of our planning documents, but they require that the town obligate the funds by September 30th, and the obligation is the contract.
Right.
Okay. Okay, and I know you said their estimated hours for the year, and they have a year to complete it, but what is the actual duration of the work?
Yeah, again, another thing I asked them today but did not get an answer. Is it 6 months?
I would say 6 to 7 months, and then there may be about 2 months after that. So 6 to 7 months for putting pipe in the ground. They'll come back after 60 days to do the finished paving that's required.
Okay. Okay, and we're confident that will be done in a 12-month duration
Yes.
with the weather and everything? Okay. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Bill?
And JR, when would the project start? Anticipated start date?
That will largely depend on the contractor themselves. They may decide to get out there as quickly as possible and get in the ground and get as much done as they can before they get a directive from MassDOT that they are no longer permitted to work in the roadway. That is what I would recommend that they do. And part of the reason is that if they do that, then they're mobilized, and if MassDOT decides to delay their seasonal closure into later in November or into December, then that gives them that many more productive weeks to continue working on the job.
Why would MassDOT give a cease and desist order on roadway work? Would it be the weather?
Yes, yeah, generally working within the winter months, whether you're having to plate the road, they don't like for the same reasons that our DPW doesn't like to have plates in the road during the winter. You don't want to dislodge any of those plates with plows and then have your plow actually find itself in a excavation. That's one of the worst things that can happen. But there are other issues related to, for example, the quality of asphalt that you're able to install and your ability to control the quality of the trench work. All of those come into play, especially once you get into any kind of a freeze-thaw cycle within the winter season.
Makes sense. Thank you. No other questions.
I just want to follow up on Bill's question about start. So the contract says, basically, they have 365 days from the start date fixed in the notice to proceed, as specified in section 410 of the form of general bid. I couldn't find that section 410. So when does the notice to proceed issue? That's the answer for the start date.
Correct. And I believe the notice to proceed will issue after they have the award, and then there may be a little bit of back and forth with the contractor to gauge their ability to mobilize in a short time frame. But once we have the contract in place, we could really issue the notice to proceed almost concurrent with the notice of award.
Who issued, does the town issue the notice to proceed?
I believe Weston and Sampson plans to issue that on our behalf.
Russ, do we know who has the authority to issue the notice to proceed?
I thought I had a draft of it, but typically it's Tom that signs a notice to proceed.
Yeah, we'll work with
I think Kathy,
town council to make sure we do that
yeah,
appropriately.
I think Kathy sent it out to them to review it, but I think it has Tom's signature, and I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Good.
We'll make sure.
Do we have anyone from the Sewer Commission or from DPW who would like to give any comments? If so, I'll recognize you. Do you want to go up to the lectern, please?
Clark Frazier, member of the Sewer Commission, 50 Bonnie Briar Circle. We waited a long time for this project,
Yes.
and we're now at the mercy of the NASDOT when they'll let us go into the road, as JR points out, and getting it done. And getting the grant. This will be the first of a number of projects that we'll have to do over the next decade
Yes.
or more to bring the sewer system back to a complete state of good repair. I've talked to Russ about this, and I think now with his help, we'll come up with a plan that will look beyond just 5 years, so that we'll be able to keep our rates as level as possible.
Well, thank you for
Any
your
other
stewardship of
questions?
this. This is really important.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clark.
Ms. Clark?
Anyone else? Not required.
We're good. I've gone over everything with us.
Any member of the public, comments or questions? I am seeing none, so I am prepared to accept a motion.
I will make a motion to authorize the town administrator to sign the agreement with Diggett Construction LLC for the Route 3A Broad Cove Pump Station Force Main Improvement Sewer Project in an amount not to exceed $3,527,188.74.
Second.
Roll call vote. Liz?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. We are approved, looking forward to moving forward.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a lot of work. Okay, next,
Brian from the galleys on if you
Oh.
want to go back. Up to you.
oh, there he is. Yes, yeah, might as well. So we can go back to an earlier item on the agenda to consider the issuance of a special one-day wine and malt beverages license to Galley Kitchen and Bar for the Mad Love Music Festival to be held at the South Shore Conservatory on October 13th, 2024, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Brian, good to see you. Please walk us through what is being proposed.
Is he unmuted? Or,
Should be able to.
Is your camera or microphone working, Brian?
there we go.
There he is.
We have video.
We see you, but we don't quite hear you.
I think he's muted on his end.
Is there anything you can do to unmute yourself?
He's trying.
Maybe he can call in?
Brian, you can always call in.
We'll give you another 30 seconds, and then we'll defer this.
We don't have anyone from the conservatory, right?
He's calling in now.
Okay.
Okay. Is that a landline we see? I haven't seen one of those in a while.
And there's only about 500 numbers you got to get into these things.
Yeah.
You can send us a telegram if you like. That'll.
There he is. All right, we got you.
So who is he dialing into so we know?
It's that 781 number.
All right, this seems to have worked.
Okay, thank
There
you.
you are.
Of course, thank you, guys.
Okay, great. So please, now that we have you, you've got our undivided attention. Please explain what is being proposed.
Okay, so this will be our 10th year doing Mad Love Music Festival, which is for the Jodka Foundation. Us as a restaurant, we will bring our food truck, and then we have some beer and wine stands that we do. So we sell alcoholic beverages. It is very family friendly. And then they have, I believe it's 6 bands that starts at 11 a.m. and then goes till 5 p.m. There's also another 5 food trucks, or 4 food trucks plus an ice cream truck from Nona's as well.
And we see that the attendance is estimated to be about 700?
Yes, about that, yeah.
And I do note that the police chief has recommended two police details as part of this permit.
Yes. Which I believe the the organizers are setting up the police details. They've been doing that every year.
Liz, any questions?
No questions. I can't believe it's 10 years, but I know this is a great event. I think it always goes pretty smoothly and is a wonderful community event up at Hingham Conservatory for a great cause. So thank you, Brian, for your commitment to this event. I don't have any questions or concerns.
No, 10 years, it's been, we haven't had any issues or concerns in previous years. It's a great event, so good luck, Brian.
Yes, good luck, and we
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
your persistence in getting through to us.
Oh, I appreciate it too. Thank you.
Tom, was there anything you wanted to add?
Nope, the chief signed off on it. all good.
Great. Any member of the public, comments or questions? Seeing none, I'm prepared to take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the issuance of a special one-day wine and malt beverages license to Galley Kitchen and Bar for the Mad Love Music Festival to be held at the South Shore Conservatory on October 13th, 2024, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Second.
Roll call vote. Liz?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. I do note that there is not a rain date for this.
Correct.
Right. Okay, well, thank you. Looking forward to it.
I appreciate it. All right.
Thank
Enjoy your
you.
night.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Okay, that was a challenge getting him on. So we'll go back to our regularly scheduled program here. I believe the next item is to consider approval of the agreement with Vanessa and Associates, Inc., to provide construction engineering services for construction of the proposed emergency access traffic signal on Lincoln Street, Route 3A, at the new Hingham Public Safety Facility. And JR, you're with us again.
Good evening. So this contract is a contract for Vanessa to provide construction quality assurance services and construction inspection of the work. They did provide the design. The design was provided under their contract. They have a separate contract with KBA, the architect for the public safety facility. And so through that, they produced the design and put the project out to bid. At our last select board meeting, you voted to authorize the town administrator to sign the contract with the contractor that's going to do that work. This contract will then allow us to have full oversight of the work and make sure that it's constructed in accordance with the drawings and specifications.
Can I just jump
Yeah,
in real
please,
quick?
Tom.
So when I spoke with you guys, I think I might have mentioned that this was an on-call contract. That contract is coming. This one is specific to this project.
Right.
I may have misspoke when I spoke with you about this line item in the agenda.
Yep, no, and that makes sense. And the dollar amount I'm seeing is 70,000, is that correct?
That is correct. 70,000 is the amount that we've budgeted. We've already had that approved through Chapter 90. So for the entirety of the project, which is the actual amount that was bid by the contractor, in addition to that, we have a construction contingency and the construction quality assurance all incorporated into our Chapter 90 authorization, which MassDOT has approved.
Okay, in terms of the term of this contract, I would have liked it to say that it would end, you can give it a fixed date, but no sooner than the end of the contract with the contractor that the super short in terms of time. So this should be at least coterminous with the underlying contract that Vanessa is supervising.
Can we amend that, Tom, to reflect that request?
I believe so. That would not, in my opinion, no, we didn't need to procure this. So yes, absolutely, we can amend that.
Does that just make sense to me?
Yeah.
That they're supervising, their work should not end prior to the
whole
underlying
purpose is
contract?
bringing
Right,
them on.
exactly.
Exactly right.
Okay, so if we could make that amendment to the term, that would be helpful.
I believe the word was coterminous.
Yes, would you like that?
I learn something new every night.
Okay. Liz, any questions?
Just to confirm, this is not a change order or additional funds. This was part of the original budget, correct?
Yes, this was all part of the original budget that we allotted for this work under, to complete the public safety facility signalization.
Okay. Okay, and the timing as amended, so it's coterminous, but they will start at the
Yes.
same time and that the start dates are aligned?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, no other questions, thank you.
Bill?
JR, could you just briefly explain the scope of the work? And, I'm looking at the issue here, and it's $70,000 for a proposed emergency access traffic signal. This seems like a lot of money. Is this the signal that when the public safety vehicle comes by, the lights flicker it and it goes on?
No, this would be a signal that would be activated within the station itself by the firefighters prior to them egressing. And what it'll do is it'll go give a yellow and a red in both directions so that they have a clear opening off the apron into Route 3A. And then it will also be linked to the signals at Shipyard, the close signals at Shipyard, which is just to the east of the apron. And that will maintain that signal in an open condition and prevent traffic from interfering with the progress of the emergency vehicles. It is a little more than we would normally budget, but I will say that this is a time and materials contract. So if things go well, then they will use substantially less funds than are authorized.
And was the 70,000, was that the lowest bid for the contract?
It wasn't a bid. It was, we awarded it based on their prior work with the town and because they did the design. So they are intimately familiar with the requirements of the signal that is being installed.
So we have these stalled in other parts of town, correct?
We do not have any emergency signalization of this type at any, actually, that's not true. At South Station, I believe that's an
Right,
emergency.
South Station, we do. We definitely
Yeah.
have it there, because I've seen it myself. Any idea what that cost for the engineering costs related to that emergency access system?
I do not know what the costs related to that emergency connection would have been at the time that it was installed.
I think that one's a little more rudimentary. It's
It
a
is.
Sensor.
It definitely
And
is.
if you just do a U-turn in the
Yeah.
driveway, the light turns. So it's not controlled by the firefighters. Right? It's a sensor in the road.
I know, I've been on Main Street pulling over as the fire engines are exiting and that light's going red.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that they hit a switch inside the station that makes that light red.
I don't know.
I'm not
about
positive,
that.
because, well, as they're egressing the station, that light is stopping traffic. It's a red light.
Yes.
So I don't know if it's a similar system or not. I just, for engineering costs related to the service of 70,000 does seem a lot to me. But if you're saying, JR, that this is the standard for something like this, then I would support it, but, okay.
I will say this, it is a little bit above standard, but I wanted to make sure that we had a belt and suspenders authorization so that if there were any issues that came up during the contract, that we wouldn't have to be renegotiating and getting a change order from our engineers to oversee the continued progress of the work. And
Joe?
again, it is a time and materials contract, so, if they don't put in additional time because everything goes well, then we will utilize substantially less than the authorization.
Okay.
So, JR, what is the dollar value of the underlying contract that we approved last week? Do you recall that?
It came in at about 550,000.
So this is 70,000 to basically make sure that larger sum is done properly.
Correct.
Okay.
it also protects, it's also there to protect the town's interests against any contractor claims or disputes within the contract.
Great. Anything else?
No.
Any questions from members of the public? I am prepared to accept the motion.
I will make a motion to authorize the town administrator to sign the agreement with Vanass and Associates Incorporated as amended to provide construction engineering services for construction of the proposed emergency access traffic signal on Lincoln Street, Route 3A, at the new Hingham Public Safety Facility in an amount not to exceed $70,000.
Second.
Roll call vote. Liz?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. JR, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next item on our agenda is to consider the agreement with Almar LLC for the roof replacement of the clubhouse and bowling alley at the South Shore Country Club. Kevin, you've been very patient with us.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me here tonight. First, I just wanted to inform the board that we had a significant donation from the Finley family. That was a clock that was added to our campus, and it's a beautiful addition. It's in memory of their brother Jim, who actually worked as a starter at the country club for many, many years. And we gladly accepted that donation. It's a beautiful clock. It has South Shore Country Club with the bucket logo in the middle of the clock and 1922 on it. So it's a great addition to the club. So we wanted to thank the Finley family and acknowledge that tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
So I'm before the board tonight. Last time we were here to discuss the contract with Almar, which was for $353,000, and get your approval. There were some questions about whether making the roof solar ready. Since that time, we have brought in a structural engineer, and our RMD, our architect and designer, have worked with them and kind of come up with a plan as far as making in the eventuality that we could make the roof solar ready. One of the things, because of the changing of the snow loads and what have you, it would trigger where we would have to sister up all the joists in the rafters. That's what our structural engineer determined, and that would be at about a cost of $125,000. The other things that we would do within the contract would be that we would do additional ice and water shield and additional fastening of the underlayment, the plywood underneath, to ensure that in the future that if they did do the sistering of the joists underneath, that we would be able to move forward with the solar array. So the exterior of the building will be prepared and ready to support a solar array. If in the future that the town decided to move forward with doing the solar, we would have to do that sistering of the joists underneath, and that work can be done at a later time.
So that work,
Coterminant.
right, so that work would not be, I heard that.
SAT word.
I heard that.
Well
But-
done.
So that work would not be inconsistent with the work that's being proposed here?
That's correct.
I think that was
Right.
concern. I did not want to proceed with a roof project that we then have to rip out part of it in order to move forward
Right.
with the solar. And it sounds like that would not be the case.
No, that would not be the case. RMD, which has done the master plan, they also did the design of the maintenance building and the pool. They've done the work, and they've done the work for the bid documents, and they will also supervise all the construction and the replacement of the roof. This roof, there's two portions of the roof. We have the bowling alley, kind of in locker room buildings, and then we have the function space. Both roofs will be completed. There is a significant amount of carpentry work that will be done on the clubhouse portion. The dormers will be redone. We're also part of a Green Bush Trust grant that we received. We're going to be doing the windows in the front of that as well. So we're kind of freshening up that building with some of the fascia boards and things of that nature that are probably original to the building.
That's great.
Can I
And,
just
yeah, if you
add
could,
to what-
I was going to ask if you could add to the presentation, also discuss to what extent there have been discussions with HMLP. So,
Exactly, we're on the
Okay.
same page. So it'll be, if we move forward with this roof project, there's still an opportunity for an evaluation to determine whether or not we want to put solar on this roof. As Kevin just said, we have had preliminary conversations with HMLP, and their initial assessment is that this is less than an optimum site For instance, the roofs are bifurcated and they're east-west facing, which isn't optimal when you're putting solar down. Doesn't mean we wouldn't, generate power if we did, but not at an optimal rate. So there are perhaps other roofs in town. We just finished the maintenance facility over there that was built solar-ready, and that is a south-facing structure, so a roof. So we would be able to put, for instance, solar panels on that roof and have them be far more productive in terms of payback. So, but that's a determination we could always make down the road. Maybe we don't want to do both, maybe we want to do one or none, I don't know.
Okay. And in terms of timing, the contract has this work concluded
So
by
the-
the end of November?
Yes, so the contractor has held his price and kind of just how things had fallen, that he wasn't able to schedule additional work. So we will be, I'll be informing him tomorrow, we'll probably have a site visit this week. We'll be starting October 11th. We'll be doing the bowling alley and clubhouse area, the locker rooms first, and then wait till after November 2nd, where they have their last wedding to begin to do the work on the function space. So we looked at end of November would be completed, and that's the type of work that you want to get done prior to really where it
Sure.
begins to get cold.
Yep.
We had an issue with like the maintenance building where we had to kind of start and stop on the roof just because of the cold weather.
And while the work is being done, how are operations affected?
So operations, we should be able to operate without any problems on the golf course side of things. I think on the restaurant, there might be some days where we might have to direct people either to the alley down by the pro shop and then walk up to the restaurant. It might be a few days, but we don't anticipate anything more than a couple of days. And we'll work with the contractor to make that happen. I think that's part of the site visit, and kind of as he looks at
Great.
the location and kind of determines, operationally what's best for us.
Great. Liz?
Well, thank you, Kevin, for your patience on this and doing the extra research. I'm comfortable with where we are and moving forward with this contract.
Bill?
Yeah, so Kevin, if I heard you correctly, so the roof can be later adapted with solar if we wanted it to do that?
That's correct. And we're,
Okay.
I do have some additional funding that, I acknowledge that we're probably going to have to do some change orders on this contract based from the original, which would probably some additional ice and water shield, and then also some, probably additional fastening to make sure that the roof is ready.
Okay, and was the opinion from HMLP, was that from Brianna?
Yes, it was, that's right.
Okay, and she specifically said it's not optimal for solar? Okay, all right.
So HMLP basically has a priority list, and this was not in the very top of the priority list in
Okay.
terms of where they want to go. But they are focusing on making sure that we look at each roof project and assess its viability for solar.
Yeah, I know that we've spoken with some residents, and we said new roofs going forward would be adapted with solar. So I guess I'm a little concerned that we're not keeping our word. But if you're saying that HMLP said this is not the roof to do it on, then certainly I trust Brianna's judgment.
Yeah, it's definitely not optimal, but we could still do it if we want to. This contract doesn't preclude us from doing that work.
Okay.
Right, I think that's the important point. It does not
Yeah.
preclude us. Any comments from members of the public? Hearing none, I am prepared to accept a motion.
Make a motion to authorize the town administrator to sign the agreement with Almar LLC for the roof replacement of the clubhouse and bowling alley at the South Shore Country Club in an amount not to exceed $353,000.
Second.
Roll call vote. Liz?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well.
Thank you all.
Contract approved.
Thank you.
Are you around tomorrow? Because I do want to follow up.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll give you a call. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, George.
Thank you. Thanks for
See you
being
again.
here.
Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda would be appointments or reappointments. I'm not aware of any for this evening. Bill?
I have none.
Liz?
I have none.
Okay.
Thank you.
Move to members of the public offering comments on items not on the agenda. Any comments? Moving then to Town Administrator Select Board reports. Arthur Robert.
Yes, I have a couple. I just wanted to share that I had the pleasure of visiting the State House today with Deidre Anderson, the Executive Director of the Hingham Historical Society. We had a chance to hear from Governor Healy, Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, and her team their team announcing the Massachusetts 250 initiative, and during that session, they pointed out that the Historical Society did receive a $30,000 grant through the Mass Office of Travel and Tourism's FY25 Massachusetts 250 grant program as part of a broader effort to, promote the state as part of the Massachusetts 250 initiative, which is a statewide project celebrating 250 years of America's independence.
And to note, I believe the governor showed up in a creative way today.
She did leave on a horse,
Okay.
which is something I had not seen
Right
before.
down Beacon Street.
The National Lancers were kind enough to accommodate her.
Okay,
That's great.
that's exciting.
And did you say the Hingham Historical Society got the 30,000 or the town?
The Historical Society.
Society.
Excellent, great, wow,
That's great
fantastic.
news.
Yeah.
And just a reminder, this coming Saturday, the 21st, the town is supporting the Out of the Darkness 2024 Suicide Awareness Walk at South Shore Park. Start time is 10 o'clock. It's a 2.6-mile course. It's a fundraising opportunity, and registration is possible through the website afsp.org. That's it.
Art, thank you. Michelle?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Tom?
I just want to let people know, there's still 4 hours on the clock to sign up for the Local Government Academy, our inaugural year. Interest is high, so get in while you can.
Are you the first professor in the academy?
I actually am, that's exactly right, and I like that term. Despite my not knowing what coterminous is.
That's it. I like it.
Liz?
Thank you, Art, for mentioning the Out of Darkness walk on Saturday morning. I will be there. I know there's a town hall team. There's many community groups that will be there, including the Hingham High School soccer team has chosen that as their charity for this year. So proud of those student athletes, and we will hope to see a lot of people there on Saturday. Just two other things that are going on this weekend. The veteran POW MIA Remembrance Ceremony is Friday the 20th at 7, and the National Veteran Suicide Awareness and Remembrance Day is Sunday, September 22nd at the Hingham High School at 9:15 a.m. So certainly there are many opportunities to come together as a community this weekend. That's it for me.
Bill?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
And just following up on Liz, this is Suicide Awareness Month, September, and so the walk is an important way to recognize that. And keeping in line with Art's comment about the 250th anniversary, Tom and I were on a call today, making sure that the MBTA provides adequate ferry service for the town as people come to visit us. And that's something that we are committed to, make sure that the MBTA supports transportation to and from Hingham. And so with that, I will, I'm not adjourning. Next item on the agenda is executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the Department of Public Works, Teamsters Local 25. The board will not reconvene in open session after the executive session. Before I entertain a motion to go into executive session under this item of the agenda, I hereby declare that the discussion of this agenda item in an open session may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the town. I am prepared to accept the motion.
I will make a motion to enter executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the Department of Public Works, Teamsters Local 25. The board will not reconvene in open session after the executive session.
Roll call vote. Liz?
Do we need to second?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
It's been seconded. Now we do a vote. Liz?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. We will move to executive session and not reconvene here. Thank you.